Hello everyone, it's Karen at the Cool Tools Studio, and today we're going to make a looped 925 ring. For today's project, we're going to be making these simple looped rings. They're really beginner friendly because you don't need very many tools to make them, and they don't use a lot of clay either. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how you can either incorporate a stone or just loop the clay and leave them plain. To make a looped ring, you need a work surface, and then today we're just working with the 3 cards thick clay thickness rolling frame, a snake maker, a mini palette knife, sanding pads, a silicone tipped clay shaper, a ring mandrel, I'm working with the silicone ring mandrels today, tough cards, and then we're working with EZ925 Sterling clay. If you choose to set a stone, you'll need some stones to set. Today I'm working with a little 3mm opalescent nano gem, and I'm using the Cool Tools setting molds to create my setting today. And you're also going to need a dish with some water and a small brush. If you need to add any of these tools to your collection, there's a link in the description below to purchase them. I always like to start off by making my settings if I'm going to be setting a stone. And I've got some clay here, and I'm going to rip off a smaller piece. I think some of the issues that people have with these setting molds is they have a really large piece of clay that they're trying to push into that low area. And by starting with less material to move to begin with, you're going to improve the likelihood of you getting the material all the way down and into that recessed area. So I've got a small ball here that I'm setting over top, and you can push down with your finger, a palette knife. I actually like using a snake maker. I'll kind of pre-position it a little bit and then come in with this and press down, and that really just provides kind of a even application, and I'll sort of drag off there, and then I'll come in with my palette knife and kind of press and drag, and then I start in the middle and drag off, middle, drag off to remove my excess material there. So then I would allow this to dry, and then once dry, you're left with a perfect little setting that's ready to go for your stone. It's got a little seat and everything ready to go, and I'll usually take my stone and set it down on its table, and then take my setting and put it over top, and then kind of press straight down, sort of rock a little bit to set my stone. And if it looks like it's sitting kind of crooked, then this is another moment where you can pull out your acrylic sheet and apply some pressure to set your stone. And these little setting molds are perfect because just like that, you're ready to go with a setting to incorporate into your jewelry. So up next, I'm going to be starting my ring band. And for this, I'm just going to be rolling a snake. You could use an extruder if you have one of those as well, but for the sake of using less tools here, I've got a 3 cards thick rolling frame here and a little coil of clay, and I'm again going to be using my snake maker to roll it into a longer, thinner coil, and I'm just going back and forth, and applying some downward pressure. I'm using a clay thickness rolling frame as a support for my acrylic sheet here to make sure that my coil is going to be one even thickness. And I'll kind of trim as I go. But you're just applying downward pressure and rocking back and forth to create a coil. I didn't put any cool slipper, any lubrication on my clay board or my snake maker because you actually need a little bit of stick and drag to correctly coil your clay. And what I'm looking for is to kind of hear the friction of my snake maker against my thickness rolling frames. Again, I'm going to trim just a little bit. And if you ever do accidentally apply too much downward pressure, it's going to flatten on you like that. I'll just kind of take it off and pinch in the opposite direction to give my snake maker something to catch on again. and I'll correct that just like that. So now you can hear there's more of kind of the swishy, 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 and that means I've got my coil to the correct thickness. And to do this looped project, I'm going to make 2 coils. So I'm going to repeat that, and before I do, I'm just going to take a damp brush, and it's not wet. I'm removing some extra moisture, and I'm just really quickly going to coat that coil so it's not going to dry out on me as I form my other coil. So I'm going to go ahead and make my other coil, and then I'll show you how we loop them around the mandrel. So I have my 2 3/4 thick coils, and at this point I'm going to bring in my ring mandrel and a damp brush, and I've got my setting ready to go if you're going to be setting the stone as well. And what I like to do is I kind of sort of pre-bend them in half, and then these rings in this form is kind of made by taking one end, and you can practice this with string before you do this in metal clay if it's not a knot that you've tied before, but you take the ends through the loop on one side and then leave it kind of long, and then you'll take the loop ends on the other end of the loop and bring it through, and then you can scoot to tighten it. And sometimes I'll kind of come in and nudge here, scoot down a little bit, and you can, like I said, leave it like that and just drape it, or you can end up placing a stone in that kind of open area in the middle. But at this point I'm coming over to my ring mandrel, and I'm going to kind of gently tap and coax down, and I'm going to bring the ends around the back here, and I just cut them even, and they're going to kind of shrink as they dry, and I'll end up filling that gap with some lump clay. So I'm using, you could use a tissue blade, a scalpel if you got one handy. I'm just trying to work with a few tools here. So I've got my mini palette knife that I used before, and I'm just using that to kind of roughly give myself a spot there. And then at this point, I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of encourage these ends to line up a little bit. And again, they're probably going to pop open as this dries. And then I'm going to use my brush to kind of come around the side here and make sure that there isn't anything too wonky in my band. I'm kind of dropping low here, so I'm going to scoot up a little bit. Oop. There we go. Encourage those ends to be friends. And then, like I said, at this point, if you were going to add a stone, I would start off with just a little bit of water to kind of tack it in place. And then once these connections have sort of dried and I'm adding clay to the back of my band, you can also add clay to solidify this join as well. So I'm just kind of popping my stone in there, adding some water, and then I'll also kind of just brush all the points of contact and connection with water as well. If you worked quickly, hopefully you won't have any cracks to correct, but I had like a little spot there that I'm just going to go ahead and hit with a damp brush now, and then hopefully that'll resolve it. If not, I'll come back with a little bit of paste when I'm solidifying my connections. And then you kind of have a decision here too. You could kind of open it up a little bit so it's wider and then tapers thinner, or like on this end it's a closer, the two bands come together pretty quickly, so I'm going to match that and bring these two in a little closer to each other as well. But at this point I'm ready to go ahead and dry all these connections and dry the clay that made my band as well. Something that I should have mentioned earlier that I'm noticing as I'm looking at the size 11 on my mandrel here is that for this project with this clay and the band thickness that we have, you can anticipate 4 sizes of shrink for your rings. So whatever end size you want, you should size up 4 sizes for the mandrel that you select. My clay has dried, and at this point I'm going to kind of look at it and make some assessments and see where I need to add material. As anticipated, the clay shrunk as it dried, so there's a little bit of a gap here at my seam. And what I like to do is I like to add some clay here first, and then I'll let that fill kind of dry, and then I'll take it off my mandrel and I'll add some more to the inside and add clay to the inside on these connections as well, because then you don't have to deal with cleaning up kind of messy paste around your setting. So I've got a little bit of clay here, and I'm using that silicone tipped clay shaper to just kind of bite off a bit and work it into a paste. This clay has a really quick ability to kind of form a slip. It readily draws moisture into itself and becomes a nice smooth paste. So I'm kind of making a thicker paste here, and I'm going to kind of manipulate it so it's on the end of my clay shaper there. Pick some up and I just kind of press it in using this tool. And once I've got it kind of generally placed, I'll come in with a damp brush to smooth things out. But for now, I'm just kind of building up and filling that area. A damp brush and smooth things out. I usually like to kind of transition the filling material into the low areas between the band as well a little bit. That way there isn't all of a sudden a glaring spot where it's like, oh, you had a break there that you filled. So I'll kind of smooth it out, spread it a little bit among both bands. And then this clay shaper has that kind of pointed bevel that I'm going to kind of clean a little bit to remove the material. And I'm just going to run between the two coils to kind of re-establish the sort of two separate bands. And again, that's a design choice. You could leave it filled and then kind of continue the fill all the way along until it breaks. But I'm going to kind of try to disguise the little seam on this one a little bit. So then once this is dried, I'll slide it off my mandrel and address the inside of the band and these connections as well. But for now, before I'm building up the inside, there's that little pesky crack again. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of my paste material and apply that to that crack. Any other little cracks that you may see. Did pretty well, there's not too many. So we're going to go dry and return to finish up this ring. My back connection has dried, so now I'm just going to gently wiggle off my mandrel, and I'm going to come in and apply some material around my setting and then kind of fill and connect the back of my band here as well. So as that dried, I kind of just kept adding a little bit of water to keep this material over here that I'd mixed up damp and usable. And again, I'm just scooping some up on my clay shaper, and I'm going to just kind of place it with this tool, and then I'm going to use my brush to smooth that out. And I'm kind of pressing it into the low area and the gap between the two bands there, just to kind of transition from where I added material in the gaps in the bands, and then also just to add extra support and connection between the two bands as well. Just some water to smooth. And once that's looking nice, I'm going to flip and again be adding some material there and there. Once again, I'm picking up with my silicone tip tool there and kind of pressing down to apply, and then I'll just smooth with my brush. And just adding that extra material is going to make sure that all of our connections are secure and sound. As I'm inspecting, I noticed some very fine little cracks there that I'm just going to add some material to as well. And then smoothing again with a damp brush. And this clay does refine pretty well with wet refinement. You could use foam tip tools and stuff to refine it, but just out of habit and convenience, I really like using the 3M sanding pads. So I'm going to go ahead and allow this to dry, and then I'm going to use these to refine both the surface and this back connection. So all those connections have dried, and now I'm ready to refine. There isn't really too much work that I have to do. Usually when I'm doing refinement, I'll start with superfine if there's any areas where I have to remove a bunch of material. Like here, I'll do it for a little bit of shaping. And I'm going to be working over my tough card here. And then what I like to do is just save the sandings, and I'll just redampen them along with this kind of mess next time I need more paste. That way I'm not wasting any of my silver. And as you sand and shape your rings, you always want to make sure you're supporting close to where you're sanding. I'm not like holding down here and applying pressure, because that would increase my likelihood of breaking my piece. So if I'm applying pressure here, I've got support on the other side there. And I'm kind of dunking to that low area that I sort of reestablished with my sanding tool. And I'm just kind of quickly cleaning things up. And once I've done my shaping that I need to do, I'm going to move on to ultrafine and then finally microfine for a nice finish. And again, like this area looks really smooth. There isn't really much refinement I need to do there. There was a little bit of a patch on a seam in a low area that I'm going to transition into. And I'm just going to use the microfine on that because, again, it's such a small adjustment that I'm making. I don't need to make more scratches to clean out. But all in all, pretty quick project. Not too much refinement you need to do, mostly just at your seam back here. And then I'll also flip and support this back edge here, and then I kind of pinch my sanding pad to make it round. And I'm going to clean up any areas where I added material on the inside of my band as well. Once you're happy with your ring, you're going to be ready to fire it. If you did decide to set a stone, make sure you remember to clean your stone with alcohol prior to firing it so it doesn't turn out cloudy. And then for this EZ925 clay, we're going to full ramp up to 1550 Fahrenheit and hold for 1 hour. Once your rings have fired, you're ready to bring them up to a polish. Since these rings kind of have interior edges, they shine up really nicely with either a rotary tumbler or the 3M bristle brushes. You also have the option of potentially patinaing. I did some black max on this ring here, and you can see it just kind of has a darker tint to both the metal, and then kind of in the low areas there's a little bit more contrast. I hope you feel like you can give this simple project a try. Thanks for watching.